here is her e-collar. Bear with me because all of the dogs are out and loose right now, so we may be addressing some things. The light I like to keep up, so if I was Storm, I would be putting it like this so that I could see it, right? Instead of it being upside down and not being able to see the light. So this has 60 hours of battery life, so you're probably good to charge it like every 2.5 to 3 days. I have been doing every other night. So again, it's got the bungee strap, so you can see it this way. So here, and then we put it in. It also came with a regular strap, like a belt buckle style strap. It doesn't have the bungee or the quick snap. I always tell people to double check the quick snap when they put it in. Just kind of make sure that, like, you know, one of the sides doesn't get stuck and then she rolls and it pops off. Something like that. So, hold on. Storm, come. Nick's here. Good job, puppies. Good. Just because they were getting a little rowdy. Good, Nix. Good, Storm. Good job, baby. Okay. Go play. Go. So there's that. If you want to switch it out, it's super easy. This strap just slides through here. If for some reason, like, you don't like, because you do have to kind of pull it pretty tight to get it around the neck and then get it to the point where you can clasp it because your fingers are in here. I guess you could kind of just hold like this, but whatever. Button, hold it until it turns green. It's on. And now it is the remote function. Okay, so in order for it to work, this lever's got to be flipped up to black. You can put up to 3 dogs on this remote. One collar is black, one is blue, one is red, and they're all programmed differently. This is just set for a 1-dog system. So if it's down here and you try to use the buttons, notice how there's nothing happening. When I hit this button and it lights up, this doesn't. Versus if it's up here and then this. So make sure that this is switched up. If you have it like in your pocket and, you know, she's maybe in the crate or something and you don't want it to accidentally buzz her or whatever, then flip this switch down. Okay. She usually functions on a 2 very well. If we are off leash somewhere, I will have it on a 3 just in case, right? If I know she's gonna go like roll in a pile of poop, I'll put it to a 3, maybe even a 4, and I'll watch. I'm not gonna preemptively hit the button, but if she rolls, then yes, absolutely. I'm going to light her up, as some trainers would say. Mainly because if it's something I don't ever want her doing, I want her to think that there's a really bad consequence that comes with doing that action, right? And if I'm yelling at her for eating grass or something like that, I'm really not even saying anything, right? I don't ever want her to eat the grass, so I'm gonna look out the window, I'm gonna look from around the corner, and if she goes to munch on the grass, as soon as she gets a mouthful, boom, I'm pressing and holding for like I don't know, maybe a split second, right? So she goes to eat the grass. That's about how long, right? It's not just a quick thing. I want her to understand, don't do that. But I am also not saying, don't do that, because she's gonna go, whoa, you know. I have been using continuous. It is the top button. It says continuous on it. However long you press and hold, that's how long it's gonna light up. It will stay, the stim and the shock will deliver for up to 8 seconds. You shouldn't ever hold it for that long, but if you know she is doing something that is not good, I don't just want like a, hey, stop doing that. Like I want, don't do that. Like I want it to be held a little bit longer. When you use the momentary, it's just like a very quick, almost like a flick, like an instant type thing. Vibrate, I don't know if you can hear it. No, probably not. No, you can't. And they play so rough. Hey, Storm, come. Next here. Good. Good job, babies. Sit. Thank you. No. Sit. Good job, Bubba. Can you see them? Good job. You guys are so cute. You're gonna miss each other. You have to come back for daycare sometime. Huh. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll play. We'll play. Some remotes have like the intensity of the vibrate also increases. This one does not though. And really it's not that aversive. Some of the other collars I've felt like the whole thing goes zzz, zzz, and it's like, whoa, what is that? So vibrate I don't really ever use unless it seems like the stim just like isn't working and I'm like at a level 4, right? So if I went up high enough and I feel like she should definitely be responding to that. And maybe it's just like the prongs are like sitting under, like hair is sitting between the prong and the skin, or it's just like spun a little bit, or maybe it's a little looser, something like that. It could be placed higher and her neck could be skinnier or lower, or there could be extra skin, whatever it is. It doesn't happen often. I think I've done it like twice. And most of the time it has been because I was on a lower level. So it was something that I forget exactly what it was, but I didn't want to go up to a higher level. I just like wanted her attention. So I did the vibrate, and sometimes that's enough of a different sensation for them to be like, oh, and kind of pay attention. Tone probably will freak her out. It sounds like this, and it's a pretty long tone. Like whether I tap or okay, so there we go. That's how infrequently I use the tone button. Really, you could use it to help with a recall, but I don't think she's going to be in a situation where you're not going to be able to say her name. Like if she was a hunting dog and she was going to be a half mile away from you or a quarter mile away from you, then I would say let's train her to have the tone mean come to me. But I also think there's a lot of value in getting a dog to respond to your voice and understand that it's coming from you, right? And not just a beep on the collar. So that's why I didn't do much with the tone. Some people use the tone as like a warning. I really wouldn't get into that if I were you guys. I would just stick with how I'm going to instruct you to do it. If you find that you're like shocking the shit out of her, or like you're using this remote a lot, call me ASAP, because you really shouldn't need to. I think the most I use it is to enforce stopping play with Nix, because it is so rewarding. I mean, look at how hard those two are playing. That's my shepherd and Nix. And they're just like, she's just nuts. Like dogs that play hard together, they're just like out of their brains. So the most I've used the collar was to kind of snap her out and remind her, hey, I called you, or like, hey, that's enough, right? When you turn it off, you just hold in that button until it turns red. The little like light on the collar will turn red, and then it'll beep and it's off. If you're using it for the bark limiter feature, basically just like a bark collar, the prongs have to sit on one side of her windpipe, on each side of her windpipe. So the receiver has to be dead center in the front. It can't be off to the side. I like when I'm using the remote for it to be off to the side. So just remember that. Remote, off to the side, bark collar, it needs to be able to feel the vibrations from her throat. When you turn on the bark feature, from the collar being off, you're gonna press and hold the button. The light is gonna turn green. You keep holding that button, and then once it turns blue, you're gonna release the button. And then that is on the bark feature, and you want the remote to be on aux, okay? It's all right, so good news. She did not jump on Jake. Here it is on because this is blinking. This little button, press and hold. And as soon as it turns red, you just let go of the button. It gives you that beep and it's off. So this is remote trainer, turned on. It should blink every like, I don't know, 5 seconds or so. Okay, turning off. And this is if I want to turn it on for the bark mode. Press and hold, green, blue, let go. And it'll go beep, beep, beep. So 3 beeps means it's barking or it's in bark mode. And then to turn it off, that's it. Yeah, red button, and then it beeped. And it showed 0 extra blinks because there was no actual barking. It's all the collar doing the work. You don't have to do anything with the remote, right? And it's only going to go off when she actually barks. There's a good chance it won't catch it right away because it gradually increases the level. But I would say probably by like the 5th or 6th time she barks, it'll be at a high enough level that she'll stop. She really hasn't been barking at all. If anything, it's just out of excitement. Like in the crate when I'm walking towards her to get her out, and then I make her wait so that I'm not reinforcing that like, oh, state of mind. Occasionally she'll bark when my dogs bark, but again, it's short-lived. But I don't know, she might backslide a little bit once she goes home. If there were a lot of barks recorded, every red blink it gives you after the first red blink stands for 10 barks. The collar counts how many barks she does. So it gives you red blinks for 10, and then it gives you a green blink for 1. So let's say you press and hold the button and it turns red once, beeps, and then it blinks red once, and then it blinks green once, twice. That would tell you that she barked 12 times. And then every time you turn the collar off, it restarts. Make sure that and that's really the only way you can toggle between the bark collar and the remote trainer. So the remote trainer would be like for recall, basically how I'm using it pretty much other than the first 2 days that she was in the crate. It's how I was using it when I was at your house on Sunday. And there is one way to switch it from the training mode to the bark mode. But I think it's kind of confusing. It's on aux, and then you press and hold this, I think, for 8 seconds. I did it a time or two, and I wasn't like, I don't know. I didn't feel good about it working. So, and I didn't have a reason to do it. So I have just been doing it by holding in the button on the actual receiver part of the collar. But it's in the user manual if you need to, and the instructions are pretty clear. But I just don't see a need for it when you could just, if it's on her, you could just press and hold the button in, it turns off, and then press and hold the button in till it turns green, then blue, then you let go of the button, and now it's on bark mode. I think that's easy enough, and that is what I have done a handful of times. Things I use the collar for the most, usually a 2 for a recall. If we're out off leash, it's a 3, and that sounds like Storm Come, 1-1000. If she isn't turning to come to me after the 1-1000, then I hit the button. If she is still not paying attention, I hit the button again. If she's still not paying attention, I dial up, maybe even 2 levels, because I need her attention. So mainly for recall. If she has something and she is like not dropping it, right? Maybe it's to the point where like she's kind of figured out, oh, this is a little bit of a game. Maybe the first time she ever grabs a paper towel, maybe you have it on a 2, and when you say drop, if she doesn't, you give her, drop 1-1000. You always give them that chance. Then you hit the button and that aversive comes. So she's like, oh yeah, whoops, spit it out. I know that's coming. I should listen, right? Just remind her. Her drop has been really good, but she might need reminded. So if she is like, whoa, on the 2, then in the future you can go to a 1. Versus if it's on a 1 and she doesn't really give a shit, then you got to go up to a 2 or a 3. Okay. For reference, mine are usually between a 3 and a 4. My dogs are a little more like higher drive than her. So when we're off leash, like they're in hunting mode. So, I just don't want you thinking like, oh my gosh, 3 or 4, that's so high. It's really not. When you get up to like 7 and 8, yeah, that's really high. If I have her prong collar on her and that little drag line, the black and white thin rope that I gave you, I'll use that to enforce the drop first. And I don't think you'll have much of a problem. But if you do, that's how you would use it for the drop. If she is eating grass, I would put it up to at least a 2, maybe a 3. And as soon as she is actively eating the grass, not sniffing it, not just like nibbling on the top, but like eating the dirt, like pulling a clump out, then you just hit the button. You don't want to say no because you want her to think that the ground is biting her, right? She went to bite the ground, it bit her back. Whoa, holy shit, I don't want to do that again. She dug once in the yard and I hit her on a 3 and I went. And it was, she like jumped off the ground and she kind of like paused for a second and looked and I hit her again. I wanted to make sure like absolutely not, don't try that again, right? Like I just want her to leave the area. But then again, like if I would have hit her on that first one and she would have jumped and ran, I wouldn't have hit her a second time. So digging holes, eating grass, digging in the garbage, putting her head in a garbage can, basically anything that you don't want her doing, whether you are or are not around, you use the collar for when she is actively committing the crime. You think about it, if the scenario is stepping on a rake, right? The rake doesn't just like come up and hit you in the face if you hover your foot over top of it, or even if you just touch it with your foot. You have to actually put pressure on it and it comes up and it hits you. That is the method that you're using for punishing things that you're not saying anything about. She has to actually make the mistake. She can't just think about it. She can't look at it. She can't, she can't have you convinced that she was going to. Like, you can't read her mind. She has to make the mistake in order to be in trouble to learn from it. And the other thing you can do, like she occasionally will bark at a dog, especially if they bark first. But let's say, we're out in the store and she barks at a dog. I say, hey, no, Pop. No, Pop, stop it. Don't do that. Pop, stop. And she is still like very much like locked in and like wanting to pull and go get that dog. Then I'll use the e-collar, right? Or if I see that once and there's a dog coming up again, I'm going to be ready with the e-collar. She barks at that dog. No, stop it. Shock. Bad. Shock. Pop. Right? I really save this for either you're doing something I don't ever want you to do, or I called you and I need you to listen, or I told you to drop it and I need you to listen. So you're either enforcing commands, recall, and which is your storm come, and then your drop it. So you're enforcing those, usually levels 1 to 2. If you're out off leash, maybe 2 or 3 for the recall. And then if you're like punishing behaviors, you're going to be between a 2 and a 4. You always are watching her though and seeing how she perceives it, because there are days that she perceives a 1 as a 5, where she is just like, oh my God, end of the world, and you don't want to just assume, oh, last time I used a 4, so I'm going to keep it on a 4 and then fry her for everything, So keep that in mind too.